Today we're looking at Math Lesson 18.3, use bar graphs. Our I can statement says I can use data in a scaled bar graph to solve how many more or how many less problems. Mr. Mason's students are showing data that they collected. On what topic might the students have collected information? So maybe they collected it on their favorite sport, or their favorite fruit, or their favorite color, or their favorite lunch. So we're going to go down here. If you're at home, you might want to stop and write those down or come up with your own ideas. On our clipboard, we're going to choose which is your favorite lunch. Okay, we're going to put that in the top of our graph. Down here at the bottom, we're going to put kinds of lunches, and we're going to say a rice dish, soup, tacos, and a sandwich. Okay, so how many people liked a rice dish? At home, if you thought 5, you would be correct. And we can answer a question like, how many more students like the rice dish than the soup dish? And in that case, we would say 5 minus 4 is 1. How many more people like tacos than a sandwich? So we had 9 and 6, so 9 minus 6 is 3. Then let's read our yellow box. Connect to vocabulary. You previously learned to show data using a picture graph. A bar graph uses bars to show data. A scale for equally spaced numbers helps to label on the graph. So over here is our scale, and that is kind of like each line stands for 2, each space between. It's kind of like our symbols in our picture graph. A scale is equally spaced numbers help to label a graph. So that's over here, and down here this was our favorite weather. And down here talks about the kind of weather you can have. How, and then let's read this. A vertical bar graph uses bars that go in the direction from the bottom to the top. So these go from the bottom top to the top. How do you know the scale of a bar? How do you know the scale of a bar graph? Okay, how do we know the scale of a bar graph? The numbers show counting by 2s. So each space between two numbers equals 2. Okay? Let's see if we can move this so you can see it. All right. So just like I talked about, from 0, from this line to this line is 2. Okay? How are the bars for stormy and sunny weather different than the other bars? How are the bars for, okay, let's look at these bars. Cloudy ends on 6, humid ends on 4, rainy ends on 2, snowy ends on 10. Whoops, stormy ends halfway between 8 and 10, which would be 9. And sunny ends halfway between 14 and 16, so 15 is halfway between 14 and 16. So the bars on stormy and sunny, the bars end in the space halfway between two numbers. Right, if you're at home, stop your video so you can get that. What is half of the scale of 2? What is half of 2? 1. How can you find the number of votes for stormy weather? the bar ends halfway between 8 and 10. So 4 times 2 is equal to 8, and 8 plus 1 is equal to 9 votes. If you're at home, go ahead and stop your video and get those things down. Okay, we're going to flip to our next page. What way do the lines on this one go? Horizontal, right? Let's read our little yellow box. A horizontal bar graph uses bars that go in a direction from left to right. So this is a horizontal. And remember, this one was vertical. They went from bottom to top. This is a bar graph about favorite kind of movie. And over here, you'll see that the kind of movie, tales, heroes, family, comedy, animals, and the scale then is down here, number of students. So each space stands for 4 students. Okay, so what would be half of a space? Half of 4 is 2. What do you notice about the scale? That we're counting by what? 4s. We are counting by 4s. Write an equation to find the number of students who chose family movies. Okay, so family movies comes over here to 20. We know that each of these is 4, so we jump 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So we could have 5 jumps of 4. Whoops. We could have 5 times 4 for 5 jumps of 4 equals 20. What is it? Students. Okay. If each space stands for 4 students, what does halfway between the space stand for? Halfway between the space stands for 2. Half of 4 is 2. So half of the space is 2 students. Okay, so it's just like we talked about. Each space is 4, so if we can only go halfway, we can only go to 2. Write equations to find the number of students who chose comedy movies. Ooh, here we're going to get to use our parentheses again. We've got to get to 12, so 1, 2, 3 times 4. We're going to put this in parentheses because we need to do that first. Plus, how many? We got to 12. We need to go 2 more equals 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2 equals 14 students. How can you find how many fewer students chose comedy movies than family movies? Well, we can go up and see. This B was family movies, and D was comedy movies, so we had 20 and 14. So we can find how many fewer students chose, so we're going to need to subtract. Six fewer students. Use the bar graph above. How many more students chose comedy than hero movies? Well, we already know that comedies is 14, and let's look at heroes is 8, and then it's halfway between 8 and 12, so we need to add 2 more. So that would be 10. And we know it says how many more students chose comedy than heroes. So 14 minus, what would he say heroes were? 10 equals 4 students. And then how many fewer students chose tales than family movies? All right, so we're looking for how many fewer students chose tales than family movies. Now remember, you can always go up on your bar graph and write what these are. So if they're like the odd ones, you could write 10 out here so you would know and you wouldn't have to keep going back and maybe counting. And this one is 12, just kind of like I had you do on your picture graph sometimes. This one is 20. Comedy was 14. And animal movies is 8. That one's pretty easy to see because it's down here by the scale. So we're comparing in problem 2 tales and family movies. So tales is up to the top, is 12, and family movies is 20. How many fewer students chose tales than family movies? So we have 20 minus 12 equals 8 students. Okay? Go ahead and do this on your own on the back by yourself, and then come back and check your answers. So you can see that I went ahead and wrote my numbers up there just so I didn't have to look across to my scale all the time, but you wouldn't have to do that. How many students? So we would need to add all of these together. So we would need to add 15, 25, 5, 20, and 10. So 3 5s is 15. Regroup of 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. 75 students took the survey. What kind of games do the greatest number of students choose? Well, the blue bar goes up the tallest, so that's the game they choose. So they like to play board games. And how many more students chose computer games than ball games? So a computer game is 20, and a ball game is 15. So we have to put our largest number first, minus 15 equals 5 more students. And then how many fewer students chose card games than computer games? I know it's kind of hard to decide if they say more or fewer, but really you're just subtracting in either case. You just need to remember to put the correct label. How many fewer students chose card games than computer games? Card games is 5, computer games is 20. So we would have 20 minus 5 equals 15 fewer students. If the scale showed counting by 2s, how would the bars change? Well, they would have to travel farther up, so the bars would get taller. Okay, go ahead and go on to your homework.